So if we remove the mental layer of marketing, like what's going on with strategies and concepts, etc., and look at the level below, the energetic level, this is what's going on. And those are the two different approaches, in my opinion. One is also the very much feminine approach, the intuitive one, I'm just being me, and I'm radiating this frequency. And the other one is I'm having that picture in my mind, that goal, I need to present this or that, and I'm basically molding it that way to put it out. Two completely different approaches.
Welcome everybody. You are listening to the Omnichannel podcast, a podcast from digital marketers to digital marketers. I'm your host Dominique Legrand, and my mission is to help fellow marketers and entrepreneurs to grow their businesses online. So buckle up and let's get started. So Katja, I'm so happy to have you here. I think our topics are so interesting in a sense that authenticity in marketing and congruency as well, right? Like those are like the main lines.
Yeah, exactly. So really like being aligned with all of you.
Yeah. I guess before we just jump into the meat and potatoes of the subject, like, do you mind talking about like your story? Like, how did you become what you're doing right now, and what exactly you're doing right now?
Well, so I'm a transformational coach. So I really help people to find that alignment, and becoming that transformational coach has also been a journey for me, because that's not what I've been doing all my life. I started out working in communications, working in marketing for over a decade for, huge global players, also for mid-sized companies, mostly lifestyle and fashion. So really diverse industries, diverse companies, mainly in, I would say more strategic roles, also in branding and in roles where I would advise other people how to communicate, how to bring a message across. So I just have this huge knowledge about communications and branding in general, and how to build a brand, and how a brand is perceived through all its actions, like the little subtle nuances that even sometimes for professional brands seem not aligned. And you can transfer that one-on-one on a person. And I moved out of the communications and branding world about 3 years ago. Through my own personal journey, I followed my intuition, which led me to a place in Mexico where I got in touch with a shaman and experienced plant medicine for the first time, and just it really opened me up and brought me on a path and showed me where my own life wasn't aligned anymore. And that started out a really transformational journey. I've been on my spiritual journey already a while before, but that really deepened it. And in that moment, I knew, okay, it's time now for a new chapter. It's time to change. It's time to move out of like corporate and branding in the context how I've been doing it. It's time to embrace a different direction, to focus my work on something more purposeful, something where I feel I can contribute even more beyond just selling products. And that's how I also discovered coaching, how I discovered transformational coaching. In my career before, I've been in various leadership positions. So I coached team members, I coached directs, etc. But never really went for a proper training, which I then did. And it showed me so much how also the human works, and how basically everything is connected. And I started out supporting people in transitioning from where they are to where they want to be, but removing all the mind stuff, removing this like rational performance driven approach, this is how we should do it, because we're all so stuck in our conditioning and the way how we've been told and learned how we should be, that what really is our essence has a hard time to shine through. And it's a process of peeling off those layers to bring us back to that essence, because every one of us has this gift. It's what we're supposed to do here, how we're supposed to actualize. And if we manage to tap into that and to hit that sweet spot, that's also where our energy is magnetic for others. And this is where it relates to branding as well, because if you are truly authentic, people will sense that about you, clients will sense that about you, customers will sense that about you. And this is what draws them in. So approaching marketing from a different perspective, in a sense. I'm also working a lot with intuition. This is actually how we met. So the intuitive approach is highly underrated. And this is also what I teach people, to work with the invisible, to work with what is probably not that obvious. And you can transfer this knowledge also one-on-one on like branding and on marketing. So that's kind of where it merges, and what our topic will also be for today.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that. I've always been amazed. I remember the first time we talked, and I was like amazed by your story. Like, you went to the jungle, like talked to a shaman, and like now you got trained by one. I'm like, holy, this is like a next level thing for me. You mentioned a bit about alignment and how that is affecting how you operate in your business, how authentic you are. What are the symptoms that I'm not in alignment at this moment? Like, how can I see that I'm not in alignment with, with my brand, or there's this mismatch?
Well, if you're honest with yourself, you will notice quite quickly, because you will feel that something is off, that you might be approaching things from the mind, from the will. You just want to make things happen, but they're not happening, or they are happening. You're successful in what you wanted to do, but the happiness is not coming with it. So afterwards, you basically check the box, but you still feel empty. You feel depleted. You feel you need to distract yourself with something. So that's mostly a sign where you're not aligned, where your mind and your heart are not in congruence. And it's about establishing this congruence. I mean, everybody is very individual, so it might show for everyone differently, but in general, you'll feel it when something is aligned. It brings you into the flow state, so things are easy. You don't need to think about it. It will just happen. The flow of life will just take you along. It will present you with the right opportunities. It will present you with the right people, and you don't actually have to do anything than just going with it and allowing it. And if it feels like a constant battle, if it feels like you're just putting it energy in and it's not working, or what you're doing is actually not filling you up energetically, but you feel more drained afterwards, that's a sign that you're not in alignment.
I've seen that you mentioned this concept before about tapping into your own frequency. Can you explain what does that mean, and how can one tap into their frequency?
Yeah, so that's actually something I experienced quite profoundly when I spent those 4 months living and learning from a shaman in the jungle in Mexico. So when you are on yourself or by yourself for an extended period of time, and you remove the distractions from the outside, you remove, let's say, or you reduce the social media consumption, you reduce all the chatter that's going on the outside, looking at what other people are doing. And this is also where we can relate it back to marketing. Just really focusing on you, what feels good for you, what you actually want to do, what brings you joy, and looking inward, going inward, starting the conversation with you. This will be the moment when you will learn to get to know yourself and to understand your own frequency. Because so often, especially in marketing, there are all those approaches and strategies that we can try, right? And I've fallen in that trap too. And in the beginning, when I started out, going for this approach, going for that approach, because others have been successful with it, but it wasn't in alignment with me. So really finding out what works for you, but not from the inside out, not from the outside in, but rather from the inside out. And for that, you need to know yourself first. You need to know, okay, what is my own frequency? How am I feeling? In which state, in which mood am I actually when I'm in balance? When I'm really not affected by anything in the external. And this is a space which you open up, which then really allows you to also dive deeper into topics like purpose. Okay, why am I doing this? What am I supposed to do? If you have all this chatter going on of other people are doing that, or people are telling you this is a very lucrative thing, I should do that, that's taking you away from your own frequency. So sitting in stillness and being in absolute presence and awareness with yourself will allow you to tap into your own frequency. And this is then the starting point to build a brand for everything else. The starting point to take it from there and know your frequency, know what you want to bring forward and how you want to do that in your own way, and then seeing what is aligned with that as a brand.
There's so many things that you mentioned that were so important. The first thing that I would say is that I think in these 2 weeks, I experienced an extent amount of overwhelm from what I've been seeing online, for what other people are doing, and like what should you be doing. And I was talking to other coaches as well, and they're completely overwhelmed. And it's hard to be keeping like, what is me? Where do I begin? When you see that you have the chatter, you have to hit, 5K, 6K, 7K, whatever K, in your business. And that's when you're successful. And you kind of see that it feeds your brain. It makes you think like you're behind, or that you should be chasing a number. And everybody's trying to sell you everything all the time. And that's like the baseline. And what I've learned is that as I was talking to a lot of coaches, I ended up investing in one. And right now we're working together. And that was the most authentic one that didn't try to sell me anything. We just talked, And but before, I had conversations with mentors that I look up to, like coaches that I look up to. And honestly, I have to say that both of them are so high up where they are that they didn't even care to actually examine if the program is for me. All they wanted to do is to sell, right? And you can sense that even though they have that pre-built leverage of, their content, their videos, like whatever I consume from them, I really looked up to these people with starry eyes that, oh my God, they can help me. And once we get into a conversation, I realized they throw things at you and it's just not landing because it's not me. You clearly didn't take the time to examine, and you can NLP mirror all you want, it's just not going to land. And this one coach that I never consumed any content, just get into a call, and in like 1 hour, I'm like, okay, where do I sign up? And that was just something authentic and something real that I felt like we are understanding each other. And this is what I want to work with. And so you said you have to sit in calm and just like isolate yourself a bit to understand, like get the frequency of what you want and who you are. And I start to realize that, you know, all of those beliefs that I implanted in your brain, that you have to do this because of that. One of the big beliefs that I've gotten from people is that, oh, you can't charge a certain amount of money if you haven't spent that money. Like that, like these are the beliefs that they implant in your brain. Oh, you need to do this, you need to get this program, that, and then maybe then you can do this. All of that, everybody has their belief systems and they all try to persuade you that theirs is the one that you need. And so I really went on a quest of trying to fix myself as if there was something wrong, as if I need this coaching, I need this mentoring, I need this and that. And I realized that I'm fine. And I need to sit with who I am and work from there inside, so that I know exactly what I want and what's for me, what's not. So just circling back to this intuitive pull energy, I think that you try to describe when you're drawn into something, that it's not hard, right? It's easy. I was looking at Susie Butty. She's the CEO of Poopery, which is a 9-figure company. The product is incredibly ridiculous, but she really talks about this pull energy and lean into your intuition. And she goes to the jungle. She went like 90 times to the jungle, to the shamanic ceremony. And she's like huge believer in that. Every time she comes back, she learns something new. What, obviously you've been doing it yourself. Like, what do you think that has given you in your finding out who you are?
So it's so interesting that you mentioned nature, because I just spent a lot of time in nature, and also with a dear friend who is absolutely into wilderness. And through him, I even learned beyond what I learned in my experience in the shamanic initiation, how to connect to nature, because nature is just always present. It requires you to be in the present moment, because there is no past or no future in nature. If we come back to the human roots, the human animalistic roots, humans could only survive when they were in the present moment, when they were in nature. And there is no distraction, because nature just is. So connecting with nature is a very powerful way of coming back to your own frequency. I mean, there are so many different tools, but I have now also experienced just through connection with nature that you can get into expanded states of consciousness, like you would, for example, with substances. So I can very much relate to what you described about her, that whenever you spend a lot of time in nature, it recalibrates you. It brings you new insights just by watching nature, how it performs, because everything is so perfectly lined out and designed by nature. We can learn so much about our human nature and transfer that on different areas of life. So nature definitely is a big part of coming back to yourself, connecting with yourself again, and to find out what is truly you. I absolutely also love the difference how you described it with the coaches, the different approaches that worked for you or not, because this is exactly it. There are two ways how that you can witness. One is really much I'm selling you something and I'm persuading you this is the right approach. And the other one is just I'm being me I'm in my authentic frequency, I'm an energetic field. And if you want to be part of that, because it does something to you, it shifts something in you when you're exposed to my energetic field, then you're invited to come. And those are two completely different approaches. One is classical marketing, and the other one, I call it frequency marketing. This is when you're not necessarily selling very aggressively, or you're putting out one solution, but people will feel that, oh, with that person, there is something for me to explore. And I've experienced that with clients that come to me. Because I'm not very much focused on one thing or one specific messaging or defining like the keywords that work best. It's people find me through the weirdest synchronicities and coincidences. And then they also sometimes say things like, I don't really know why, but I just have the feeling I'm supposed to work with you. So they cannot really pinpoint it to that specific program or that one thing that they want to learn. They just feel that there is something in the energy that would be beneficial for them to be exposed to. And this is actually how energy works. You don't, when you work with your coach, you don't pay him or her to teach you certain tools, because those tools could also be taught by anyone else. You are basically investing in having the opportunity to being in that energetic field of that person, and just by being exposed to their energetic field, to seeing how they're doing it, how they're embodying what you actually want to embody. And you mentioned your coach, she is so authentic, and she was not trying to sell you anything, and that's what got you in, because she was embodying this this authenticity, and that's what you were looking for. So if we remove the mental layer of marketing, like what's going on with strategies and concepts, etc., and look at the level below, the energetic level, this is what's going on. And those are the two different approaches, in my opinion. One is also the very much feminine approach, the intuitive one, I'm just being me, and I'm radiating this frequency. And the other one is, I'm having that picture in my mind, that goal, I need to present this or that, and I'm basically molding it that way to put it out. Two completely different approaches.
I love that you mentioned energy, and Susie, I told you, this CEO, the 9-figure CEO, she also talks about this dissonance, this energetic differences when you are in flow state versus when you are not in flow state, right? Yeah. And she mentioned that there was a meeting and they were trying to find a solution, and she could walk in the room and stop next to a person and said, this is the energy, this is the good energy, and just like pinpoint when it's time to get into the solution by the shifts of the energy. Are you able to as well detect, because you're so intuitive, the energy shift and even that, getting that from other people that you are interacting with or beings?
Yeah, so that's actually mostly how I work, very intuitively, and like picking up the energies. For example, also in coaching sessions, when I know, okay, the client is in an energy that is right now not allowing them to move forward and keeping them stuck, I will implement tools or exercises or just little things that help them to shift the energy in that moment, to allow them to expand again. So this is such a big gift, using your intuitive skills on picking up on things. If you're an empath, for example, you will know it. You walk into a room and you can immediately pick up on things without words being spoken. You just know what's going on energetically, that those two people seem to be in a fight, and there is like something heating up. You just feel it. And every one of us has those gifts. We're all intuitive. We just have unlearned how to be intuitive. And that's a quality you can tap into again and develop. And when we do that, it opens us up, because then we can access more information than just the ones provided by the rational mind. So also, if you really look at it and you know how the brain works and how consciousness works, and it's so fascinating, because it's only a really tiny amount of all the information that we take in that actually gets stored in our conscious mind. That's where the rational mind is operating from. And all the other information, they go straight to the subconscious. And you cannot access it unless maybe through hypnosis or bringing things up, or through intuition. Like intuition is our gateway to access the information that are beyond the storage of the rational mind. And it's so much more information. It's like basically watching a black and white movie or having a full color spectrum. It's a huge difference. And this is also a paradigm we're currently shifting into. More people are learning how to be intuitive, are exploring their intuitive skills. So yeah, if you know that, but it starts with knowing yourself first, also there, to be able to distinguish what is my energy, what is someone else's. Because only then you can read the energy around you. So as you see, this is how it relates back again. And I just really love working intuitively with people, and also training them or showing them how to develop those intuitive skills. Because in the moment when it then switches and you see, oh wow, actually, yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Wow, that must be really amazing to witness that. Just to talk a bit more about like branding, we always start about, we need to know who we are first, right? We need to be distancing the chatter, like whatever is going on, tap in and need to know who we are. I just had a breakthrough this morning with my coach. As we were talking about, there was a question like, what is currently something that I'm ashamed of? And my answer was in the worksheet that it was sharing my true desires. And what we kind of come into realizing is that I have this, I've been holding back expressing myself for so long that it's just been something that I'm so fearful. And I think expression is in your brand is super important. And so how do we get the courage to tap into that self-expression?
We need to give ourselves the permission to do it. And it helps if we find role models who are already doing it, because it's not easy in the beginning. We have this image in our minds that has been programmed what it means to be and then you continue the sentence. Successful coach, professional consultant, whatsoever. How do you show up on social media? What is content that you can and cannot put out? But all this is based on what we have observed in others, but there are no rules. You are your own brand, and your brand should be an extension of your personality and an extension of all the facets. So we, of course, have sides of us. Everyone has sides that we don't appreciate so much, that we don't want to show, but they are all part of us. And this is where vulnerability also comes in. If you also allow other people to see that part, you will actually win their hearts, because that's when you're showing them that you're a human too, and they can relate way more to you than if you have this polished image of being that perfect human, perfect professional, perfect whatsoever. Again, two different approaches. One is the very like masculine energy one, I do it that way. I create a certain image and I will push, push, push. And the other one is the very feminine one. I'm just like being me 100%. And through doing that, I will allow the right people to see me. Because in the end, you have the greatest results. You have the most fun working with people who are actually really coming to you for you and not for the image that you created. And then it also becomes easy. Then you get into flow because you're not doing anything else than just being you. And through showing that, through giving yourself the permission to express that with all its facets, you're basically sifting the people. The people that really resonate with you, they have an easier time to find you. If you're not showing who you are fully, then the people that are meant for you won't find you or have a harder time finding you. And this is where it seems counterintuitive, but this is how it works. The more you show of yourself, the more alignment happens also in the external. And it's just a shift of perspective. That's the one thing where it's connected to fear, like, oh my God, when I show myself fully, when I express myself fully, then X, Y, Z happens, then I might get rejected or people will think this and that. We try to hide those parts of us, but actually if we allow them to be expressed, this will draw more of the right people in for us.
I think you put that beautifully. And I think we struggle with a self-expression, because of many reasons, because in our childhood, perhaps we were not allowed to express ourselves, or whatever reason we hold back, or the fear of judgment. I think for me, that was a fear of criticism, of what people think of me. And I would say it's a process. It is a process to show that side of you, that what you really want, but it's for me, that still is still so intimate that I think there's only one person besides me that I shared with. Even my partners, I'm not telling them because I'm like, that's just so intimate, for me. And I think I know what you mean. It starts with allowing yourself to express that, and then let that go. And then you said it's easier if you have someone that can mentor you, right? Like you can model as well to see that. But you also mentioned that will attract the right, type of energy in your life, in your business. So how that would manifest, like once I start putting myself out there, do you think I'll be able to see that coming to my life? Like how did it happen for you when you tapped into your authentic self?
Yeah, so the process that I witnessed in my own journey, but also in others, is you have this huge fear of, oh my God, what happens if I do this, if I write that, if I show that side of myself? And first, like a disclaimer, showing yourself fully doesn't mean that you need to tell everyone everything. It just means expressing yourself in that moment without inhibition, without overthinking. You just do what you feel you want to do without worrying about who might perceive it how. Does that make sense? So really just being you in that moment without thinking too much about it. And hold on, now I lost my train of thought. Can you give me the question again one more time, please?
So you were saying that in order for us to be tapping into that authentic, expression of what we want, we either need to model someone who already does it, and you said, and it's not something that we need to express everything, but how just to finding that like sweet spot in our expression of our personal expression. And then this is where I lost it, I think.
I think your question was about how do you, or what does the effect look like if you do that, if you really embody that. So there is this moment of when you're doing it for the first time and you're like, oh my God, what will happen if I do that? And then once you get over the fear and you do it anyways, you will actually be surprised about the positive reactions of people. In my personal experience, it was that what I like worried about most, that people might judge, was then actually what spoke to them most. That was the reason why they reached out. Yeah. So the thing that worries us most hides the biggest gift very often. That's the case. And I've also seen it in clients once they move past that and allowed themselves to express that side. It was as if a weight was lifted off their shoulders, like, oh my God, it feels so good. I feel so much lighter just having shown that side, having expressed that, putting that out. Why didn't I do that already earlier? We are so often worrying too much for a too long time about things. And then once we just need a moment of courage to do it, and then it's dissolved. And it's about this continuous peeling off the layers, not overthinking it. And of course, then looking inside, why is it difficult for us? Why do we get triggered in those moments? Why are we even hesitating? What's behind that? And then we can dive deeper and explore ourselves. It relates back to, an inner core wounding, something that, as you said, we feel ashamed of, or we're afraid to be judged for. So there's always a fear behind that. But if we manage to move past that fear, that's where the actual expansion and growth can happen.
Do you think it's getting easier? The more you do it, the more you express it, it's going to be easier. It's just going to be always remaining, but you kind of silence that, scare, whatever you have in your brain.
It gets easier because you're training yourself into the habit of doing it, into becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable. That's how you move out of the comfort
that sounds
zone.
really hard.
Yeah. But just knowing that there is no point in waiting until it won't feel uncomfortable anymore. So to evolve first to a point where it doesn't feel uncomfortable, because that won't happen. The way of evolving is through going through this feeling of uncomfortableness. You do something that is out of your comfort zone and that stretches you. This way you literally grow into the bigger version of you. So, and the more often you do it, I mean, the first time it's, oh my God, what will happen? It's like big drama, but the more often you do it, you know yourself, you'll know, okay, this is just my inner critic now, or my mind telling me I shouldn't do that, people will judge me, whatever it might be. And then when you just push through, because I've done it before, and you remind yourself, okay, how was it in those times? What amazing things actually happened afterwards, and that will make it easier for you. But there will always be this little.
Okay. So it's not going to go away completely ever, is what you're saying. It's always going to remain a seed of whatever in doubt.
For the same thing, yes, it might. You might not even think about it anymore, but as we're evolving, our challenges are also evolving, or we're peeling another layer off, and then there's something else behind it. So let's give you a concrete example. If you, for example, struggled with social media, right? Just, or in general with public speaking, then the first Insta life might feel like you would prefer to die instead of doing it. But once you've done it a few times, your nervous system gets so used to it, you kind of regulate it to a new level that you might start to enjoy it, or it might feel normal for you. If you do things long enough, you just get used to it. But that doesn't mean that now all your fear of public speaking is gone. When you then get invited to a conference to speak somewhere, you might feel that initial anxiety again, but you basically know the process of how you move through that. It's all about, and this is where we come back to the energetic layer as well. It's all about calming your nervous system, because what happens in processes of transformation is that your ego wants to keep the body, the nervous system in energetic homeostasis. So where you are, what you know, what feels safe and familiar. Once you move out of that, the nervous system is alerted, like, oh my God, what's happening? Something is new. This is not good. Let's try to bring it back to normal. This is where the fear comes up. But once you push through that, soon your nervous system will adapt to a new level. And then you're just doing it and you won't even react to it anymore. New things will come in, which your nervous system reacts to, but what has challenged you in the past might become super easy for you.
Oh, that's good news, that, you know, it is something that you can move past, but you cannot ever diminish. I remember there's a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. There were 3 like ground rules in the book. I think the first one was everybody's experiencing it. So it's like a shared human experience. You're not alone. Unless you're a psychopath, I guess you still fear things. I don't know. Good question for another conversation. The second one was, as long as I'm continuing to grow, I'm going to experience fear, because it's always going to be, you know, new. And the third one was, in order for fear to go away, you need to take action first, and then it will go away. So it's not going, you would think that, oh, I'll just wait, it's going to be cool. No, you have to take action and it will go away. But again, it will come back when you are expanding and expanding and expanding. But it's always, you can move past it, and then I know that. See, I have all this nice information. I also, in the book, there is the explanation of the fear is, I can't handle it. You know, I can't handle criticism. Every fear is here. I can't handle it. Whether it's a death of my father, whatever, I can't handle it, you know? And so, because that's the fear, like that's the root of I can't handle it, the criticism, the judgment, whatever, shame. Once you unlock that, it's easier to understand. So I think intellectually understand all of that, you know, and I'm still here. I am like, I'm not expressing myself. So that's like a different ballgame, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Like transformation is more than just changing the knowledge or changing the perspective on it on a mental level, because it needs to go through the entire body, and the energetic level is where we get stuck, because we know how to do differently, that we want something else instead, but there is something in us that's activated, kind of, I like to refer to it as the animal body, the nervous system. It's just a response that's taking over, where we feel we have no control over it. And then because fear always tries to protect something. What's behind the fear? Like, what are we trying to protect? What don't we want other people to see? Where is the fear coming from? So as long as we haven't explored that, the energetics will stay the same, and then it's so hard to move out of that. So working on the energetic level is
how do we change
amazing.
Energy then? That's my next question. Like, how do we work on the energetic level? Do we need to go to the jungle and like hang out with shamans and like do a session with you? Like, how do we get there?
No, you don't need to go to the jungle. I mean, there are so many ways how you connect to yourself, how you connect to your energy. First, it starts out with awareness, and there is like no magic pill or no magic exercise that I could give you now and say, if you do this one thing, you can immediately change your energy. That's for you to explore. But what the common thread is in all of them, getting back to you, to your true essence, moving past the layer of conditioning of the mind. If you can imagine yourself, basically your inner being is this naked human being, right? And the programming that we have, the conditioning, is the clothing we're wearing. So seeing yourself in the naked version, and our mind always keeps us seeing what we're wearing. So once we remove those beliefs, or see that it's actually only the mind creating this fear, or the mind thinking that thought, and we go deeper and explore who's actually the one who's doing the thinking, like what is the inner being about. That's how we calm the nervous system again. And there are different ways how to do it. I mean, meditation is an amazing way, and there are like 1,000 different ways of meditation by itself. Just any form of getting back to yourself and into the body, into the present moment, not worrying about the future or thinking about the past, regretting what has happened. Removing all of that and bringing you back to feeling yourself and feeling your inner frequency, and from that state, taking action. There are certain like exercises that you can do where you basically embody the energies of different perspectives, and you work with it, you play with it. It's not a role play type, but energy is released and changed by feeling it, by moving it. So it will evolve embodying that certain energy, that certain frequency, maybe that biggest fear, and feeling it so you can move it. That's how I would describe it. So awareness, coming back to yourself, to present moment, and at the same time this energetic, emotional cleanup of feeling it, removing it, so you can come back to the inner core.
Yeah, well, that's really good that you share that. I think I'm going to be going back to this clip and just re-listening this part whenever I feel like I need that grounding experience and looking within myself. I remember looking at, again, going back to Susie, because she's such a firm believer in intuitive and energy. She also talked about how ideas are energies as well. And in order for you to have an idea coming to your mind, that you need to catch that frequency. And so there is a reason why an idea is coming and knocking on the door. That you're catching that idea. Well, what is your take on that? Like, what do you feel like that's also something that's an energy, like the idea itself of like a business or whatever?
Yeah, all is energy, and quantum physics is slowly like bringing both worlds together, what some people consider as the spiritual, the woo-woo, like all this energy stuff, and like hard science. It's now all coming together, and what is it? It's proving. I mean, if you look at people like Bruce Lipton, he and his work are amazing. So I highly recommend to check it out. How what you're thinking affects your health, affects your body, affects your state of being, because thoughts as well are energy, and it will create our reality in the end. So whatever we cannot imagine will never show up in our reality. And whatever we think and give attention to, give focus to, will show up in our reality eventually, because the job of the mind is to ensure that there's congruence between what we're believing, what we're thinking, and what we see in the outside world. And that's a crucial part. Like, I want to repeat that again. The mind is there to kind of create that congruence, to create that proof that what we're believing is the same what we're seeing in the outside. Otherwise we would go nuts. If suddenly the sky wouldn't be blue but like red, we would not know what's going on. We would think what's wrong. Or if we speak to someone and no one would react to us anymore, as if we were invisible, that would completely throw us off. So the mind wants to establish that congruence. And what does that mean in the end for our beliefs? So whatever belief we have that's not in favor of what we actually want to draw in, that would still in the end somehow manifest on the outside, because our mind will try to establish that congruence by, for example, focusing on exactly finding proof. That can happen subconsciously, finding proof for what we fear most. Finding evidence for, oh no, it's not going wrong, like we're focusing on the wrong things. So where is the focus? Where is our attention? Yeah, that's my take on that. So highly resonate with that.
And so we really need to watch what are we thinking about,
Yeah.
what is in our head, and clear that or affirm things that are, positive, and tune into that more, and not feed, and feed into the negativity as well, because that can cause problems. Yeah.
And it's also not so easy if you have those negative thoughts, or if you're stuck in the monkey mind, that you're just going down the loop. Oh my God, nothing is working. And then you just spiral down. It's very difficult to just shift your thoughts to the opposite and saying, oh yeah, actually, no, I'm good. Everything will be fine. That's why affirmations also don't work as well, because you're then telling yourself the opposite on a verbal level, but your entire system, your body isn't believing it. Then there is no congruence.
It's so interesting. It's so interesting that you say that, because I was just talking to like one of the coaches as well about this, and I said, well, I have this vision for myself and this future self or higher self, whatever you want to call it, and I go hang out with her in hypnotherapy all the time, right? And I always tell her I do affirmations, but they don't work for me. But then I still got frustrated about my circumstances of what I have. And she's like, you're misalignment. Of course, it's not going to work for you, because you need to believe that you embody that whoever you think is in the future, or whatever higher self that you think. And then you're going to be able to see the results that you're looking for. Like, what do you think about that?
She's absolutely right. You need to not only think it, but you need to feel it as if it actually also happens. And at the same time, you need to release the expectation that what you desire will come. So you kind of need to feel, I'm already having it. And at the same time have this infinite patience that you're also okay if it will never show up. And that's that's a very difficult spot to be in. But that's actually the energetic field where it will then manifest. And if we try to go from down in the mindfuck spiral up to, ooh, I'm embodying it, it's already here, that's a big stretch. So one trick is to focus on something neutral to get you out of that mindfuck spiral. For example, to do little exercises that bring you back to your body. And I have one that's super easy that I can share with you here. Try it out. It works in any situation. Whenever you notice your mind is like spiraling in the direction, or you're thinking thoughts you don't like, just rub your fingertips and try to feel the ridges of your fingertips and really focus on your body and the sensation that you have in your body, just for a second. That will take you away from the negative thoughts, but it won't bring you to the high state where you want to be, but you need to go through the level in between where you're in a neutral space. Otherwise the gap is too wide. So whenever something comes up, you can do that. You can do that in a meeting. Just when something triggers you, just remind your body again to be present. And that's a very subtle thing that works quite well. You can do it everywhere. That's also the basic of meditation, right? To like bring you out of what you were thinking into just the present moment. But we cannot always sit down and close our eyes and meditate wherever we are. And this little trick we can do anywhere. Yeah. So you kind of need the neutral level in between if you want to go from really down in the spiral to back into flow.
Wow, that's a really good tip. Thank you so much. I think I'll try it, but it's not easy, especially when you are such a visionary for yourself and you see the higher self and you hang out with your higher self all the time. Like we have full-blown conversations. Like she says a lot of things, and I'm so happy to be like a big happy family, you know. But like embodying that, and just like you said, like letting go of the expectation is when something comes to you. Congruency is something we talked about, and I want to briefly touch on congruency as well, because the reason why we had this podcast in the first place is because we talked a lot about having this fake, you know, this fakeness about the branding and the fluff, you know, and how can something look so perfect on the surface, but when you really talk to that person, you realize that was just, you know, it's completely different, you know, that's not congruent with what they are portraying. What do you think about that in general? Like, do you see that in your own, you know, circle as well? Like people are plastering these featured on branding type of thing, and that congruency, that's just not who the person is. And yeah, what do you think about that? I want to touch on that for sure.
Yeah, so that's also something I've noticed in my environment or on social media, where that there's sometimes not congruence, that you have a certain image of something, someone that's been created by what's been put out, but then when you meet the energetic field, it's different. And of course, everyone can have a bad day or be off, but it's about, is what you're putting out about yourself, is that aligned with your baseline frequency? And the baseline frequency is what we fall back to most of the time. There will be lows and there will be highs. There will be days where we radiate more, and there will be days where we're just feeling shitty and we're not delivering what we would wish we deliver. We're just not living up to our expectations or the expectations of our mind. But what's the baseline frequency? And as long as the baseline frequency is really aligned with what you show, that will feel congruent, that will feel authentic. If it's not, you will feel it energetically. And we humans try to fit a certain image. That's how we've been like brought up, to be able to fit in. It starts with school, which I like to call the slave entrainment program, because it basically tries to neutralize neutralize the uniqueness, because everybody has their own unique gifts and talents, and instead of being encouraged to express them, we're being told how to be, what to do, how to do things, to be successful and get a certain grade, right? So we unlearn to express our uniqueness. And this is why we also have the idea of we need to portray a certain image in order to be successful. This is where it comes from the early conditioning. But I highly resonate with, like, personally, the content of people where I see, wow, they're really authentic. They might be weirdos. They might just, like, everybody is a weirdo in the end and has their own way of doing it. And that's what makes us unique. And if someone is just fully living that without giving a fuck and just really expressing who they are, that's what draws you in. That's where I resonate most with. If someone is like really just being them, and not caring.
Yeah. Well, that's powerful, and that's what influence, I think. Like, that is where you inspire when you
Yeah.
really just, I'm not saying you should not give a fuck, because it's like you should give a fuck about things that are matter to you.
Yeah.
So that's like picking where to give fucks. You mentioned about school and how that's, conditioning us in killing the creativity of
Mhm.
authenticity. Is this something that you help people in your program to kind of relearn who they are, then getting aligned who they are?
Yeah. And that's not only like the clients I work with, but I believe that um, all of us humans, we're in that process of, in the first few years, we get conditioned. We all have our like baggage that we carry around. We have a certain view, and then later in life, we are in circumstances where this is not helping us, or this conditioning is not beneficial for us anymore. And then we if we wake up, if we go on that path of self-exploration, personal development, we slowly start unlearning those things and taking off those layers to come back to who we are beyond that, who we are as an inner being.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a collective process, I would say, that's happening.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about your programs before we wrap up? Because I want our listeners to be learning exactly what you help with, your programs, if you
Yeah.
have different ones. So whoever is interested in contacting you, they can hear a bit more about that as well.
Yeah. So I basically have two or three different ways actually of working with me. I have a one-on-one incubator in which I go really deep with someone, and I help people to move from the rational performance driven, exactly from that existing paradigm, into tapping into their intuition and combining that to find that congruence, to find that heart brain coherence, and to live from that. I use different tools and techniques within that. So as I also have the shamanic background and I'm a shamanic practitioner, that's part of it, shamanic work, shadow work, also working with tools that explore expanded states of consciousness can be part of it, but doesn't need to be. That's the one-on-one journeys I take people deep in. And I also have group programs from time to time. Currently, I'm running one soon that is called the Transformation Codes. And this is exactly where I will be sharing about the energetics of transformation, what's going on, and also sharing from my own personal experience what has helped to really shift. I'm also lecturing at a university about how to design for human transformation. So I'll also weave some of that in and it's for the people who really are on the verge and want to shift something. They want to change something, but they're feeling, I've tried, and exactly at that energetic level we talked about, I get stuck and I want to learn how to manage that and what's beyond that. So this is the transformation codes. And then I also, as I love to design experiences, I'm also offering personal immersions here in Mexico, where I'm living in the Tulum area, where I take people deep on a 2, 3, 4-day journey where we will just embrace different activities and go through different experiences that help you to reconnect to your own frequency and get to know yourself better.
Like, what is your take on purpose? Like, I want to hear the expert on the purpose finding type.
Well, there are so many like ways to approach purpose, but definitely purpose is a misunderstood topic. It's more than just a mission or like a profession that we embrace during our lifetimes. Like they had someone being a doctor and knowing they want to be a doctor, that's not really purpose. Purpose to me is, first of all, knowing who you are, like what your uniqueness is, and fully expressing that, and also taking into account all the experiences you've been through in your life, because they shaped who you are, right? So asking yourself the question, now when I look back at my life, like all the things I've been through, what does life want from me? Like, why did life send me through all of this and gave me the gifts I have? Like, how does life want me to express myself? And purpose can also be something like, my purpose is to stay fluid in life and be a constant evolving version of myself, and have as many different jobs as I want to, or have the freedom to embrace any identity at any moment. This could also be a purpose. So kind of freeing ourselves from the idea that purpose is attached to one specific lifestyle. It's more a feeling, a sensation. How do I want to express my uniqueness here during this lifetime? What would that look like for me? And knowing why you do this, like what in you is it that is really pushing you forward? Because that's also, if you remind yourself of that in the moments where you're doubting or where things are difficult, that's the fuel that keeps you going. So knowing why you're doing it and who you are, who you truly are inside, the powerful being that you are inside, and how you want to express the presence of this powerful being here in your life.
Is this
my take.
Is this something that you help your clients with as well during the sessions, that to redefine that flooded image of purpose, that, purpose, it should be like this profession, that it's just not something that is so, like tangible?
Absolutely, yeah, because purpose is also so closely connected to authentic expression and to your brand. So ideally, like all of those are congruent, and then you're in alignment. That's where the flow state happens. That's where things just are easy, because you're not doing anything in particular. You're just being you and truly expressing what you love and what wants to come through you.
Oh, that's a lovely place to be. And I'm so happy that you came to this podcast and we had this conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invite.